This bill, the American Health Care Act, it keeps our promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. It delivers relief to Americans fed up with skyrocketing premiums and fewer choices. It moves us away from the broken status quo toward a better, patient-centered system. What I want to tell my fellow citizens is that the nightmare of Obamacare is about to end, that we are doing what we said we would do in this campaign, which is repeal and replace this awful law that is crashing. Let me say one more thing. Let's not forget, Obamacare is collapsing. Obamacare isn't staying. If we did nothing, the law would collapse and leave everybody without affordable health care. We are doing an act of mercy by repealing this law and replacing it with patient-centered health care reforms that we as conservatives have been arguing for and fighting for years. There are two ways of fixing health care. Have the government run it and ration it and put price controls. That's what Obamacare does. That's what the left wants. Or do what conservatives have been arguing for years. Have a vibrant free market where people get to do what they want. They buy what they want. Equalize the tax treatment. Stop the discrimination in the tax code against people who want to go out in a free marketplace and buy the health care of their choosing. This does that. This lowers costs, creates competition, it allows choices. The most important thing that this thing does is it takes power out of Washington, takes power out of the bureaucracy and puts it back to doctors and patients where it belongs.
We're going to make sure that those who have pre-existing conditions continue to get health care and health insurance. We're going to make sure that there are no lifetime caps, and we're not going to kick your kids off their plans until after they turn 26. We'll help you kick them out of the basement, maybe, but not off their health insurance. This is important work we're doing. We look forward to moving forward on it and to providing the rescue for the individual market and relief to the states and help to the people that sent us here to get this job done.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague as well for his work on this. Mr. Speaker, after weeks of empty promises that he had a secret plan to ensure every American at lower costs with higher quality care, President Trump is now standing behind a House GOP repeal plan that was introduced last night that fails every single one of those promises. Based on estimates that we've seen so far, millions of Americans stand to lose coverage, out-of-pocket costs will skyrocket, and the quality of care will plummet. But today, hours after that bill was introduced, Mr. Speaker, our president referenced a to-be-announced second and third phase of his health care rollout that Secretary Price referred to as, quote, a work in progress. Once again, injecting our health care system into crippling uncertainty that is hurting patients and hospitals, behavioral health providers, and local economies. If you are so proud of this bill, why locked in dark rooms? Why not have an open debate? What are we so afraid of to have a debate on this floor? That's why I would urge my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans alike, to support my resolution of inquiry tomorrow to try to make sure that the details that have been discussed by this White House and by the Republican caucus behind closed doors are open for America to understand before we cram a health care overhaul down our throats. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield. Chairman, I was struck last night by a comment that I heard made by Speaker Ryan, where he called this repeal bill, quote, an act of mercy. With all due respect to our speaker, he and I must have read different scripture. The one that I read calls on us to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, to shelter the homeless, and to comfort the sick. It reminds us that we are judged not by how we treat the powerful, but by how we care for the least among us. Mercy. Defined in purely secular terms, it's compassionate treatment for those in distress. It's kindness, and it is grace. There is no mercy in a system that makes health care a luxury. There is no mercy in a country that turns their back on those most in need of protection, the elderly, the poor, the sick, and the suffering. There's no mercy in a cold shoulder to the mentally ill. There's no mercy in a policy that takes for granted the sweat, the tears, and the sacrifice of working Americans that they shed every day so that they might care for their family's basic needs, food, shelter, health, and hope for tomorrow. There's no mercy for the 2.6 million people who will lose their job if Obamacare is repealed. This is not an act of mercy.
Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Washington State.